Just a lot of stuff. I'm so concerned because I was thinking about it.
First 2 years, it was just so
Because it is. It's kind At least they're not favored.
yeah, they can do something about it.
Okay, so as long as Rick's on.
What's the official recording?
Okay, all right.
Running out of excuses.
I don't think he's going to make it.
Oh,
Yeah.
he's not on his bicycle.
No, he and John are not going to be here. So good evening, everyone, and welcome to the January 8th, 2024 regular meeting of the Township of Montclair Planning Board. Happy New Year to everyone. In accordance with the New Jersey Open Public Meetings Act, adequate notice of this meeting has been provided by posting a copy of the notice on the first floor of the municipal building and by sending a copy of the to the newspaper designated by the township for notices. This meeting is being broadcast live on Channel 34 and is streaming live and will be available on demand on YouTube. This meeting is a quasi-judicial proceeding, meaning that the board has powers and procedures resembling a court of law, and we are obligated to objectively determine facts and draw conclusions from them in order to provide the basis of an official action. Any questions or comments must be limited to the issues of what the board may legally consider in reaching a decision, and the decorum appropriate to a judicial hearing must be maintained at all times. Fire exits are to my right, which is your left in the audience, and the back of the room where you entered. As to the order of the evening, each application hearing begins with the applicant or their attorney giving an overview of the application and the variances that are required, if any. We then hear from any expert witnesses the applicant may have to help explain the application and why variances are required. Board members may ask questions of the applicant, the attorney, and their expert witnesses. And if you're a member of the interested public but not a witness in the case, you will have 2 opportunities to speak. At the end of each witness's testimony, you will be given an opportunity to ask the witness questions about his or her testimony. And that's not the time to tell us what you think of the application. That'll come later. And to ask questions, you have to come to the front of the room, give us your name and address, and then ask your questions related to the witness's testimony only. After the applicant's witnesses and any objector or objector witnesses have been heard, members of the audience will have their second opportunity to step forward. And at that time, you may express your opinions, positive or negative, about the application. Comments are generally limited to 3 minutes per person. And then at the close of the applicant's case and the public comment, the public hearing will then be closed and the board members discuss the case and vote. At that time, you'll be able to listen to our discussion, but you will not be able to participate. And with that, we have our roll call.
Vice Chair Brodock,
I'm here.
Mr. Graham,
Here.
Mr. Ian Wally,
Here.
Ms. Lockman.
Here.
Mr. Ortiz,
Here.
Mr. Pierre is excused, Counselor Terry,
Here.
Ms. Willis, Chair Wynn is excused, Mr. Jacobson,
Here.
and Mr. Neiman is excused. Okay.
Okay. And as this is our first meeting of the year, it is our reorganization meeting, and we have a couple of reports from a couple of committees, or at least one committee and some subcommittee appointments.
Right. Yeah, because this is the reorganization, we are looking for nominations for the position of chairperson, vice chair, secretary, and assistant secretary.
I hereby suggest that we afflict John once again with the role of chair.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Okay.
Now, Brodock is another story, but
I serve at the will of the board.
I will nominate Keith Brodock for the role of vice chair.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions?
Even I would vote for that if I could.
Well, thank you.
Janice, you're the secretary of this operation, aren't you?
Yes, I am.
Well, I don't see any reason to do anything other than nominate Janice Talley as the secretary of the board.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? And the assistant secretary will be.
Come on, Jeff, you're going 4 for 4.
Well, I don't even know who they, I got
Yeah,
to
yeah, she's new. Hussein Farwa is the assistant planner. So I'd like to recommend her for the assistant secretary.
Well, serving with her on the HPC, she's the secretary for the HPC. I'll nominate her for assistant secretary.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
I
Abstentions?
just insist.
Sorry to steal your
No,
4 for
no,
4.
I just insist that we tell John that we also appointed him assistant secretary. And that's what he gets for missing a meeting.
Second.
Okay, I think we're covered. Congratulations, Keith.
Yeah. Thanks. Thanks, everyone.
And the next time, I think I included in your packages subcommittee assignments. I know we've talked about this in the past. And if anybody is looking to change the subcommittee assignments, let me know. Otherwise, we could keep them the way they are from last year.
Anybody want to pick up new roles, switch roles, leave a role?
I think this year there'll be some work of the master plan subcommittee, which is Carol, Mike, and Keith. Revisions committee is somewhat active. That's John, Jeff, and Mike as well. And of course, the development review committee is always active, Carmel and Jeff as well.
And I've learned an awful lot from Carmel and would like to keep doing that.
Yeah.
There's a list of, it's a beautiful thing.
And there may be issues of zoning that come before the zoning subcommittee. That's Carol, Carmel, and Tony.
Can I borrow yours?
So, each committee has certain assignments and various levels of involvement with board matters, but they're all very important.
What does the Personnel Committee do? I forget.
Well, the Personnel Committee is they handle matters of board consultants.
It's the Arthur Neese full.
Okay,
Yeah,
so
so
the consultants, nothing, thank you.
I'm getting out of here.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah. So we'll talk about that when we go to executive session.
Does
Okay.
anybody want more time to review the list? Do you need time, Tony? No, you good?
So should I make a motion to accept these assignments?
I'm sorry.
Oh,
There are,
Do you want to put your microphone on?
yeah,
Thanks.
for those committees, there are 2 committees that only have 2 people. Does that mean that those committees are looking for a third, or should they just stay at 3? I mean,
Well,
at 2.
the Development Review Committee by our statute only has 2 representatives from the
Okay.
Planning Board.
Okay,
But the Bylaws Committee and the Communications Committee, that's just by choice. If somebody wants to be added to that, we can certainly add to those 2 committees.
oh, I see. So the Development Review Committee is, so who else sits on that?
Which one?
No, but I mean, from outside. Oh, the zoning board is on it as well. Okay.
Yeah,
Got it.
And our engineer.
right.
And I'll say the Communications Subcommittee and the Bylaws Committee are pretty light. If somebody really wants a job, it's not much that goes on there.
We call on those committees when there's an issue.
Correct. When there's an issue, they get involved. Otherwise, it's pretty light.
All right, if there's no,
Okay. No, take your time.
right, so Kevin, I have you on the nominating committee. But if there's a committee you were interested in?
Because we can swap.
so can I make a motion to accept these subcommittee assignments?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay,
All right.
we've reorganized.
We've reorganized. Thank you, everyone. Next up, we have approval of the minutes from December 18th of 2023.
And Keith, I have the comments that you provided to the minutes, which seem reasonable.
One additional item I noticed, Janice, page 4, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7th paragraph down. It says, the last line of that paragraph, include a deed restriction stating that no subdivisions, should be no new subdivisions.
Oh, okay.
And then,
Stating that. Yeah, I got that reversed.
it's just stylistic, but should they be commas instead of semicolons in that paragraph? It doesn't particularly matter, but,
Yes, it does.
okay. Just something I thought I should draw attention to.
Right, Keith?
Yeah, we should have a
should have
copy editing subcommittee as
Right,
well.
we should. We pretty much do, I think.
And then just one item on the conditions. I believe we talked about the historic elements. I think the attorney stated that the historic elements would be preserved in perpetuity. I don't know if this is a rule against perpetuity's issue or not. I don't have to get into that. But should that be stated expressly here that they were, that they shall be preserved in perpetuity? Should that be noted?
In the resolution, you're talking about 509?
I'm just saying in the
the
minutes here.
minutes.
In the
Oh,
minutes here. Yeah.
That I, you know.
Is that in the resolution as well?
it has that.
Then maybe we should state that in the minutes as well. I would suggest we say, just add after shall be preserved in perpetuity.
I can make that
And I
change.
think I put that in the resolution because he agreed to it,
Right,
so.
yeah. Okay.
It's not,
Oh,
but I got that, yeah.
okay.
Okay,
I decided I never wanted to hear that term again after the bar exam.
I know.
So that's
I
a 15, that is a
apologize.
15-yard penalty for,
I apologize for traumatizing all attorneys watching this, but
Well,
Yeah.
if you're like me, the rule against perpetuities in law school was known as RAP, rap. So you can be the rap singer of this thing.
I will abstain. Thank you, though, Arthur.
is there a motion to approve the minutes as amended? Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions?
Abstain.
Then, next up, we have a resolution for 509 Park Street.
As I wrote to all of you on Friday, I need to work out some kinks with the attorney for the applicant, and I expect that by your next meeting, that you'll have that resolution. So if you wouldn't mind tabling that for the time being.
I think that's fine. And I assume the applicant's attorney is okay with that?
Yes, he's agreed to that.
Okay, great. We have no old business, so moving on to new business, we have application 2859, 81 Alexander Avenue.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the
Evening.
board. Happy New Year. Welcome to the Planning Board, Counselor Terry. Nice to have you here. It's good to see everybody. I'm appearing this evening on behalf of Peter Zorich and Simon Stigsby. This is an application for minor subdivision approval for property located at 81A Alexander Avenue. Property is located in the R1 zone district with a minimum lot width requirement of 70 feet. This is a somewhat unusual or exceptional property, starting with the fact that it's exceptionally large lot in this neighborhood, just shy of 1 acre in size. The lot is also extraordinarily deep, approximately 500 feet deep, spanning roughly 500 feet from Alexander Avenue. It's also a flag lot, which was created by virtue of a prior subdivision approved by this board at least 40 years ago, probably longer. It's also somewhat unique in the fact that the property contains a non-conforming two-family dwelling. It's the only structure currently on the property. It's located towards the back of this property, and the property butts up to the Alonzo Bonsall Preserve. As I said, there's a legal non-conforming two-family in the rear of the property. What my clients are proposing here are the following. One, they want to convert that non-conforming two-family to a conforming one-family residence, and to create a separate one-family residence on a subdivided lot. So if the application were to be approved, there would be no increase in the residential density on this property. There's currently 2 dwelling units on the property. If approved, there would continue to be 2 dwelling units on the property, albeit in 2 separate one-family buildings, which complies with the zoning ordinance, and on 2 separate subdivided lots. That's basically what the application entails. As you'll hear, both, and by the way, the 2 lots we're proposing to create would be roughly a half acre in size, so we're still talking about substantially sized lots, particularly in this neighborhood, as our expert will discuss. And both of the lots would be accessed by a shared driveway, similar to the shared driveway which currently exists on this property. And that driveway will provide safe and adequate means of egress for emergency vehicles to get to and from both of the lots. In addition to minor subdivision approval, we're seeking 2 variances in connection with this application. First variance is to allow a lot which does not have frontage on a public street. The second variance is for lot depth for the newly created lot. We're proposing a lot depth of 137 feet. The ordinance requires 155 feet. The majority of the lots in this neighborhood do not comply with the 155-foot lot width requirements, so that variance would not be allowing for a lot depth that would be out of character from what currently exists. I should point out that Janice correctly referenced in her memo a 3rd variance for the driveway. However, we've eliminated that variance because that driveway will be paved, at least up until you get to the rear lot, which would remain gravel in the rear of the property, which we'll discuss later, but I don't believe we need any variance for that. So it's just the variances for a lot not fronting on a public road and for lot depth. We've submitted with the application a subdivision plan prepared by Pronesti Surveying, as well as a site plan prepared by Eric Schultz. I have 2 witnesses to present this evening. First witness will be my client, Simon Stigsby. And following his testimony, we'll have our expert engineer and professional planner, Michael Lanzafama. So, with that, I'm prepared to proceed, Mr. Chairman.
Do we have exhibits to mark
Exhibits?
first?
Yes, I have pre-marked the exhibits. A1 is the application. A2 is the certification of taxes paid. A3 is the proof of publication. A4 is the affidavit of service. A5 is the survey prepared by Pronesti, dated July 27th, 2022, and revised November 30th, 2023. A6 is the site plan prepared by a variety of names on it, including Stigsby, as well as others. And that plan is dated June 22nd, 2023, revised September 5th, 2023. We have the report from Boswell Engineering dated January 3rd, 2024, and the planning report, the Boswell report's A7, and A8 is the planning report dated December 28th, 2023.
Okay, Counselor.
Okay, I'll call Simon Stigsby as my first witness.
Sir,
Turn this on? Yes, please.
do you solemnly swear the testimony you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes, sir.
Would you please state your full name for the record?
Simon Stigsby.
Mr. Stigsby, what is your current address?
31 Riverview Drive.
In Montclair?
in Montclair,
Okay. And how long have you lived at that address?
about 16 years.
Okay. Are you one of the owners of the property located at 81A Alexander Avenue?
Yes,
And how long have you owned that property?
a little more than a year.
Okay. And did you acquire that property with a partner?
Yes.
Okay, and who is your partner?
His name is Peter Zorich.
Is he a Montclair resident?
Yes.
Where does he?
Oh, yeah. Can you hear me now?
Thank you.
Where does Mr. Zorich reside?
Peter also lives on Riverview Drive West, sorry.
Okay. Can you explain where your house is and where Mr. Zorich's house is in relation to 81A Alexander Avenue?
Yes. We both live on Riverview Drive and Riverview Drive West, respectively. There's a cul-de-sac very close to the property in question. Peter lives about 5 or 6 houses from there. I live on the other side of the street from him, about 10 houses from the property.
Okay. So you're both in the neighborhood?
Yeah.
Okay. And by the way, what is your business or occupation?
I work in architecture and design.
Design?
Yeah.
Okay. All right, you filed this application to subdivide the property into 2 lots, correct?
Yes.
Okay, before we talk about your plans for the property, I'd like you to review for the board the current condition of the property. And I think the best way to do that would probably to refer to the site plan that was submitted. Can we pull that up on the?
Did you submit that in your, I know you submitted 2 presentations, which I uploaded. I didn't bring the site plan. I just loaded the presentations that you sent over. All right, why don't you put your thumb drive in and pull them up?
I thought since you had digital copies that they automatically.
I usually do, but I thought since you sent me the presentations, I didn't need to upload
Well, that was
everything.
just a supplement.
Okay.
Sorry about that. I'm glad you have it, Mike.
So can I just ask a question while they're doing that? So I think the last meeting when this was scheduled, there was at least one neighbor here. Do you recall that? Anyway.
I wasn't here, but I heard.
Oh, okay. And I don't think there's any neighbors here now. I was wondering if you had a chat about this with the owner of Lot 74, which seems the lot that would be most impacted?
Yes, the front house, Lot 74, his name is Ronaldo.
Yeah.
He currently has it as a tenant property. He lives in New York City.
Oh, I see. Mhm.
I am friendly with both the tenants,
Mhm.
and Ronaldo and I share, maintenance costs of the current driveway, landscaping, and so forth, and he's fully aware of our plans. I've shared all the drawings with him, and we have, Alan will come back to this later, we have agreed at an easement for the new driveway together as well.
Okay, so he's on board with this?
Yeah.
As far as you know. And how about the tenants?
The tenants, I don't know if he's informed his tenants. I have 2 tenants in the current property, and they are aware that we're planning something in the near future.
Okay, thank you.
Sorry, you said you had 2 tenants currently in the, on the property?
That's correct.
And I'm sorry, and you said you informed them that there are plans for the property, you said,
Yes.
right? Okay, but not
And
the extent of.
Their leases expired February
I
1st.
see.
We're in discussion with extending a little bit with one of them.
Do you have an agreement with the adjoining property owner for the new easement?
Yes.
Yes. I can provide a copy of that. I was going to when we got to it.
Mr. Chairman, a question. Why didn't you consider keeping the driveway entirely on lot 73.02 rather than encroach on the other lot, 74?
Sorry, I'm just looking at the plan. The reason being, we currently have the shared driveway significantly on lot 74, right? And in order to make that turn around the, what is that, the northwest corner, I would be encroaching so much onto our new property, it would affect the front yard of the proposed dwelling. So I thought there was a happy medium where, we're giving him a significant amount of his property back from removing the driveway there in exchange for, cutting off that little triangle there.
I had a similar question. I went to the site today, and it is a very narrow driveway. Is it just 10 feet?
It's
Is that
less than
correct?
10 feet.
It's not less than 10
In some locations,
feet.
it's probably 8.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. As you go around the corner, you know what corner I'm talking about.
Yeah,
It's
the
very,
current
very
driveway.
close to the house. And are you going to widen the driveway? I can't imagine you could use that driveway with, lots of traffic coming and going.
Mr. Stigsby, we'll have to get you on the, if you can use the there's a handheld mic on the cart.
Yeah,
But-
and it's turned on.
I was also thinking about construction traffic.
Is it possible to have the applicant make the presentation to
First.
us first?
We
We were
jump
planning
right-
to cover all these things.
Oh, nice.
Okay, so you've got on the screen there the site plan and the currently looking at what I believe is the existing conditions, is that right?
Yes, this is the existing conditions here. You can see the existing driveway coming through here.
Can you speak right into the mic?
Is it on? That's
Yes.
better? Okay.
Right into it.
This is the existing site plan. This is lot 74 here. This is their detached two-car garage. This is the existing driveway. You can see how much it protrudes into lot 74's property. This corner here has been hit multiple times by vehicles because it's so close and narrow there. So yes, it's probably less than 8 feet right there. But the new driveway is proposed at, the regular 10 feet and away from that to solve that
If
problem.
you scroll down, you could probably show the proposed driveway.
Doesn't look much different.
So this is the new driveway we proposed. We allocated it in the center here to kind of respect this neighbor and this neighbor here. This is the turnoff to lot 74 here. The reason, coming back to your question here, was if we kept the driveway purely on our property, coming around and making, a 10 or 25-foot radius turn, we would encroach on this area so much that it would be very, it'd be really limited as to what the front yard for that new dwelling would look like. And the fact that we're giving back X amount of square footage to lot 74, I thought it would be very fair asking for a little bit of that triangle to accommodate a new and more natural flow of that driveway, which the lot 74 owner agreed to as well.
It's a much better situation for lot 74, isn't it? There's a lot less driveway
I mean,
on his property.
he's very happy. I think it increases the value of his property. He doesn't have, two families driving through his property, basically. And it's a little bit of a more grand approach, so to say.
Mr. Tremblay, is that easement the subject of a written easement? Is it recorded?
It hasn't been recorded yet, it's signed
No,
by
the original.
The original easement is recorded,
Okay.
and we have an easement relocation agreement signed by Mr. Quisby, the owner of lot 74. We haven't signed it or recorded it yet because, we want to wait until this board hopefully, approves the application. But it is signed, and I have a copy. We might as well, so mark this, what, A9?
Yes.
That'll be the new easement?
Yeah, easement relocation agreement, it's titled.
Thank you.
So while we're discussing the new driveway, you said that's going to be 10 feet wide?
That's correct.
Okay, now, is that going to be paved?
That's correct, yes. Up
Okay,
until this.
From what point to what point?
So it'll be paved from the front here all the way to lot 74. We have agreement with Ronaldo here that he's going to take over and make any minor adjustments to continue our new driveway connected to his existing paved. He has 4 cars there, I believe. Then it will continue here until we get to the existing lot or subdivision line there. And then we're proposing for the existing gravel driveway to remain at the current dwelling.
So at the property line, the pavement would end and the existing gravel driveway would continue around the back that leads to the existing garage?
Yes, that's correct. Let me just see if I can show that better over here. So, well, that doesn't show the lot line or the new lot line. It's roughly here. But the gravel driveway would remain. All this area here is currently gravel and parking.
Okay, so there'd be no change to the existing gravel driveway at that part of the on that part
That's
part of the
correct. That's correct.
property? Okay.
We're trying to minimize the changes of the existing property.
There's a little bit of an encroachment of that driveway on the other property, so you'll probably need to widen that in the back, I guess, right?
Well, let's
Uh,
talk about that. I was just going to ask him
Okay.
about that because it was correctly pointed out. Would you refer to the encroachment?
Yeah, it's right here. I don't know if I can zoom in on this one.
Yeah,
So it's this line here.
okay. And the property that is encroached upon, who owns that property?
That is town property.
Okay, and is it used for anything?
No, it's a wooded area.
Okay. All right, now, what is it that you would like to do with respect to the driveway in that portion of the property?
We would like for the gravel driveway to remain.
Okay, but what about the encroachment? That's what I'm getting at. Let me phrase it this way. There seems to be a pretty large tree there on the opposite side of the driveway.
Right, so there's a 30-inch diameter tree here, 15-inch diameter here, and 30-inch diameter over here.
Okay.
The encroachment is roughly, according to the CAD files from the surveyors, about 30 inches.
Okay,
From
if
the
you
lot
were
line.
to eliminate the encroachment so
The-
that the
these three-
driveway would be totally on your property, would it be wide enough to get vehicles through there without removing those 2 trees?
No, those 3 trees would have to be removed.
3 trees, including,
This one as well, sir. I don't think you can make that turn. The property's fence is right there, and the road is very close. So I'm thinking that one has to come down too, if you're going to make that transition here.
Why couldn't you make the turn earlier?
I
mean, it's a nice sweeping corner. Why couldn't you come down a little bit sharper and then make a sharper corner to
Okay,
be
so-
straight?
All right, so I think maybe this one can stay. You're already like almost driving on the roots, right, as it is now. And there's a picture of that I can show you in Janice's report. But there isn't enough room here. Like these 2 trees would have to go if you want a 10-foot driveway.
and the alternative would be to try to maintain the encroachment with the town's consent.
Correct.
So what we'd like to, what we're proposing here for the board is that we would like to seek the town's consent to allow for the encroachment to remain. If we cannot obtain the town's consent, then we would remove the encroachment, but that would also mean losing the trees. We'd rather not lose the tree if we can persuade the town to allow this encroachment to continue. It's apparently existed for quite a while.
Correct. If you look on page 4 of Janice's report, there's top photo, figure number 5. Those 2 trees on the right side there are these two trees right here.
Have you had any discussions with the town yet, Mr. Tremblock?
Not yet.
And you're saying there's not 30 inches to move over?
No, because the existing driveway there is not 10 feet wide. It's less.
But you said the encroachment's 30 inches onto the township property, correct?
Correct.
So wouldn't you just essentially be moving over 30 inches? I mean, from the figure 5 you just referred to, it looks like there's 30 inches available.
I don't know how you read the picture, but you can see the gravel going right up to the roots.
But is that actually the driveway? Because it looks like there's gravel going up to the roots from what I can see, but there seems to be no gravel in the foreground and kind of in the background. It looks like there's vegetation there instead of gravel.
Perhaps it's possible. I've been there, and it's very tight. And that's when you're driving on the property, it's difficult to know exactly where the lot line is. The only reference point you have is the tree. The other tree in question is this one here, and that is on page 7. I'm sorry, that one is on page 8, figure 13. And you can see the trees you asked about on page 7, figure 12. You can see another angle, how close they are.
How does the town access their property?
What is going on?
Let me just zoom in here and I'll show you.
Come in from
This is
Riverview.
lot 91, so you can access it from here, Riverview Drive West. This is not really reflecting reality. There's a big cul-de-sac here, like a big turning circle.
And is there a road into 91? From that?
No.
It's just there? Yeah.
There's the Belgian block curve, and it's just there, no access.
Okay, thank you.
And it's just a wooded, undeveloped area. Lot 91, the
Correct.
town property, is that right?
Yes, here.
For what it's worth, I grew up sharing a very narrow easement with 5 other families, and that was the only way in and out of our driveways, and I lived to tell the tale, so that's why I'm a little, probably less excited about this than the rest of you. A lot of years of lived experience, but
Are we evaluating, this is a subdivision primarily, right? How much of the site plan are we reviewing with respect to construction, et cetera? I mean, where is the boundaries around what we're supposed to be reviewing? I know this is technically a subdivision, right?
There is no site plan component.
There is none. Does that happen, let's say if we had questions about drainage and coverage and so forth, when does that happen?
That would be done, normally, it's conditioned upon submission of a plot plan. After the subdivision is approved, before the houses are built, then they would have to submit a plot plan showing the drainage, and that would be reviewed by the engineer.
Okay.
We've had some of these in the past where there've been conceptual houses submitted. We don't need that for this application?
A waiver was requested.
A waiver was requested, okay.
Yeah, it's a good question. We don't need site plan approval. We
Okay.
did submit a site plan because we thought it was important for the board to see how
Okay.
the property lays out, and we are essentially committing to what you see here.
Right.
Simon can talk about their thoughts for the new house in a few minutes, but this is showing the exact location of the driveway based upon the easement relocation agreement signed with the neighbor. The house is obviously where it is, and we're provided a footprint for the new house.
Perhaps it's easier to put the proposed driveway into context if I can show the proposed new dwelling location.
Sure.
Do we have that, Tannis, on the, pardon? Here? So this is the existing site plan here. Whoopsie, sorry. Let's close this off.
This is the site plan, June 22nd, 2023.
I believe so. Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, that's correct. So on the top, you have the existing plan similar to what's on the survey.
You have 9.5? Hold on just a
9.5
second.
Site plan.
The electronic ones that I have are, I think, just June 22nd. You have a 925, Mr. Neese?
9.5.
9.5.
9.05.23.
There was one revision, and the only change was showing the tree removal.
Let's see.
Which this one does not show. So the September one, which I have here, I can show you guys, shows the tree removal and our proposed replanting plan.
Right. While you're looking at that, talk about the footprint you're showing for the new house on the proposed subdivided lot.
Right, so the existing dwelling in the back is roughly a 1,700 square feet footprint and has an attached two-car garage. So what we did with our proposed dwelling, trying to keep the same scale, we did roughly 1,700 square feet with an attached garage. The only difference in size between the two is we added a single-story covered porch on the front of the proposed dwelling as a feature and to add curb appeal and resale value. But otherwise, they're the same size, similar height, which we thought would be fitting to the neighborhood.
And you're committing to that, what's shown there, roughly, correct?
Yes, very roughly. This is, Eric and I have been through different scenarios in terms of, you see the existing lot is, the existing dwelling is turned sideways. And it's difficult, everybody's always asking where's the front door. But with our new proposed, it's very clear what's front and what's back, what's a side yard, and so forth.
You know, it's quite a nice property in the back, you know, with all the woods in the back. It's funny that you'd put the front porch in the front, looking at the back side of the new house, rather they're in the back when they're looking at the panoramic view of the woods. Just a suggestion.
I'm not sure I understand.
So the right side of the plan there is all the woods.
Over here is all woods.
Yeah, and so you're
Right.
saying you're putting, in the new house, you're gonna put a front porch. I'm sorry, not the existing house, you're gonna change
No.
that to have a front porch?
Well, the existing, with the application, we would convert the existing two-family home into a single family.
Yeah, right.
And then we're proposing to build this. Other than taking out the kitchen on the second floor, we're not proposing much work to this at all.
Oh, so the porch you were just talking about is the new
Is
house?
here.
Okay.
Correct.
All right, sorry. I
That's
misunderstood.
all
I
right.
thought you were putting the porch on the old new house.
Janice, I just want to make sure we don't, I want to make sure I understand what we're doing and not doing so we don't get lost. I listened carefully to what Mr. Trembulak says. This is just a pure application for subdivision with a couple of variances, right? And then, so we're basically looking at whether we think it's an all right idea to subdivide this property and if the variances are in line with.
Related to the
Yeah.
variant.
Right.
And
subdivision.
anything related to drainage will be covered by the town?
This is also eliminating an existing use variance, and so bringing it more into conformity.
No, I'm with you, I'm just saying it, but, and, right, so it's, but that's all, it's.
Right.
It's just-
We're overstepping our bounds by talking
Well,
about all
we're
this
not-
stuff.
I wasn't
In a
gonna
sense.
say it that way.
Yeah,
No,
but-
We're not overstepping. It's making sure that what they're proposing can actually be
Right.
built.
Yeah.
That's why a lot of times we ask for these things where elevations, drainage, stormwater, to make sure that we approve something that's actually going to work. And we don't approve a subdivision, all of a sudden it's like, well, now we can't build it. Now we got to come back for some other variance. Like, we try to,
No, I
accomplish
got
it
it.
in
No,
one
we're
shot.
all, I just want to make sure I knew what we were trying to solve for. So we're trying to solve for, is it feasible, and then it's just that.
Right.
So-
So we're partly responsible for that because we gave you more information than we had to. And I guess
Yeah.
we pay the price for that.
Yeah.
But we're trying to just show how.
I just want to make sure,
how everything lays out on the
sometimes I like to make sure I know what we're talking about, so thank you.
and we would request it anyways, so it's good that you provided it. We would request it anyways.
Yes.
So, Mr. Tremblak, you said to me, you asked Mr. Stigsby, are you, I think the words you used were, are you confirmed with this? Are you going to?
Committing to this basic plan.
So I presume that the new house meets all the setbacks, that it
Yeah.
would not be.
Oh, sure.
So-
That's correct. And also, this exercise was basically to see if we could meet, what we could do with the setbacks, what we could do meeting the impervious surface requirements and lot coverage and so forth. And this setup meets all those requirements.
So with impervious surface, you're mitigating this is where, I'm not sure how far we go, but you're causing no more runoff from the property because you're adding
Can't.
impervious surface?
Then that would be something.
Well, that's probably also for their engineer to
Oh, the engineer.
testify, right? You,
Okay.
Mr. Tremblay, you have an engineer also who's going to testify?
We do. I'm not sure if he's prepared to deal with that issue, but
Well,
Let's see.
that was my kind of first question. If we don't do it here, someone's going to do it.
it would be at the
Okay,
building
all right,
permit.
okay,
That'll
all
be
right,
handled under the site plan review for the new house.
okay.
Including the driveway.
Actually, to clarify, it's plot plan review.
Right.
rather than site plan.
So the requirement of the maximum of 200 square feet and all that would be,
You would, yes, that
okay,
would apply.
so we don't need to deal with it here. One other question, is it septic area or is this sewers back here? What's the,
It's a little bit of both. The existing house has a pump that pumps up sewage to the a manhole here or sewage connection at that cul-de-sac there.
okay. All right, so it's not septic.
It's not septic.
Right.
Thanks.
But it's a lot, the proximity is a lot closer this way than going to Alexander Avenue.
And the new house will be going to the same point?
Pardon?
The new house will go to the same point?
Probably not, if that conflicts with going over town property.
Oh,
We
I
would
see.
probably
Go
have
onto
to
the
go
street.
to the street.
Thank you.
Maybe while you're looking at this aerial view here, you identified, I think, 13 trees to be removed from the property?
That's
To accommodate
correct.
the new,
Let me see if I can show
Structure.
you on this one. Yeah, so there's a couple of trees here. I know Janice's report says it's a heavily wooded lot or something in those lines. Most of the trees are in this area here. Most of the trees in the front yard are, to the side. There are, I think, we're proposing to remove 13 trees and replant 13 trees, mainly to accommodate the driveway, and then this group of trees here to accommodate the new structure. The new trees would be planted on either side of the new driveway to form an alleyway. And so I think that's maybe 9 or 10 on the front, and then we would propose to plant a few others along here for privacy between the two dwellings.
What kind of trees are you planning on planting?
I'm not a tree expert, but something that go,
Something native to New
native
Jersey?
species that goes along with
Perfect.
what works in, yeah.
And you know, you obviously have to comply with the requirements of the tree removal ordinance.
Yes.
And when it comes to tree removal. Okay. A couple other quick questions that, and this is in response to some comments in the engineer's report. Does the easement relocation agreement also provide for sharing of maintenance expenses with regard to the relocated driveway?
Yes,
Okay, that's shared among currently the 2 property owners.
That's correct.
Ultimately 3 after, if this
we would,
application is approved.
right. If it's approved, then we would need to revise the current easement to include that third property.
Okay. And then the engineer had a comment regarding what I think he perceived to be a conflict with the roadway and the landscape buffer easement. Can you direct us, just show us where that's on the plan, shown on the plan?
So the easement is the triangle here. And I think we have a rough 5 or 6 foot buffer from the edge of the road to the corner of the garage, which would be the landscape buffer where Mr. Ronaldo has agreed that we can maintain that with evergreens or fence or what we want to kind of shield, divide the 2 properties a little more.
So the easement, or the landscape buffer area is between the driveway and the garage, basically?
That's
right?
correct, indicated by the crosses.
Okay, so there's no conflict between the driveway easement and the landscape easement?
No.
They're 2 different areas?
Correct.
Meant to be, right? Okay. And then...
Sorry, Mr. Tremulak, I was just reviewing the agreement, and it looks as if the maintenance costs are going to be distributed as between the 2 lots, the new lot and existing 74. What about the guy in the back? What are they doing, maintenance-wise?
Well, I think once a house is built, the easement will need to be revised so that there's 3
Three-party sharing.
parties. yeah.
So it will be distributed among the 3 lots?
Correct.
And have the responsibility for that? Okay.
Correct.
Because we'll have to provide for further cross easements with respect to the new subdivided lots, in addition to the sharing, but currently with the owner of Lot 74. I think maybe the last question I had relates to Janice Talley's comment relating to the asphalt sidewalk along Alexander Avenue. Can you
right.
address that?
So this is the existing survey here. You can see this little strip here, and on the other side, that is asphalt, about 12 inches wide in the grass. You don't really see it when you're driving by. But they're basically, both adjoining or neighboring properties do not have typical sidewalks either. In fact, all of Alexander Avenue, I think, from Lot 74 all the way down to Broad Street, I think there's around 27 houses, of which 3.5 have sidewalks. And from Lot 74 to, Grove Street, there's about 10 houses, of which 3 have sidewalks.
Okay. So are you, if the board were to require that you...
What? No, I think it's important that this is the opportunity to make the improvements here, because it's certainly not walkable now. You know, we try to pride ourselves on being a walkable community. A 12-inch asphalt sidewalk, which is overshadowed by those bushes, you can't even walk it right now. So I strongly recommend that this is your opportunity to have them put in a conforming sidewalk that's truly walkable, at least along this section of town. Because otherwise, what other opportunity would we get to have this sidewalk put in, at least on this section of the road?
Can you mandate a sidewalk he's absolutely right. If you walk on Alexander Avenue, There's hardly any sidewalk, even the asphalt. There's hardly any asphalt
I
at
know.
times.
I know.
So can you mandate everybody on Alexander Avenue put in a sidewalk?
It's actually, I know it's the homeowner's responsible to maintain it, but at this point, there's nothing even to maintain. We have to start with something.
It just seems unfair to make this applicant, put in a sidewalk, or no one else on Alexander Avenue has one.
No, it's
That's
not
all.
true. It's not true.
Well,
Some of them do, not all of them.
Well, he just told you, 6 of them in the whole stretch of Alexander Avenue.
And that's, so you can't say none of them do.
Oh,
I'm
excuse
saying
me.
some of them do.
Out of, I don't know, what was the house count? Anyway.
What's the applicant's position on this?
We didn't intend to make it, controversial. We're willing to put the sidewalk in if the board requires it. We question whether it's fair when there are no sidewalks really on the adjoining property, so it's a sidewalk on our property that leads to nothing on the adjacent properties. But again, if the board wants it, we'll put in the sidewalk. I think we are willing to remove the shrubs,
Shrubs
as
are,
Janice suggested.
They're in the
no
right of
problem.
way anyway,
Okay.
so.
And I think that covers all I had for Mr. Stigsby. Further questions from the board?
Just locate where the telephone pole is now. That's not being relocated, right?
no.
Okay. So you just missed it on, the driveway's just to the right of it as you go in?
Yes, we're proposing to move the driveway a little bit closer.
Okay.
There is a fire hydrant, I believe it's right there.
Yep.
So we just want to move it in as little as possible to get that center between the two neighbors.
This kind of doesn't relate, really, just curious. Is there a stream in the back of the back property?
Third River?
There is a stream, Third River. It's the property here from this back facade here to here is roughly 140 feet. And I think the stream, I don't think it's on the wooded area. I think it's more in the reserve.
And that backs onto the reserve? It doesn't
That's-
back onto another house?
No, that's correct, onto a reserve.
Other questions from the board?
Just recap what are the two variances again? What are the two that are being requested? Could you
there's
repeat
3.
them? 3?
I think so.
Just two, just really quickly.
Out of the waiver.
One of the lots will not have frontage on the public street. The lot in the rear, where
Yeah.
the current house is,
Right.
would no longer have frontage.
But that's allowed, there is some language about what is allowed in a flag lot. There's some, actually, this is kind of educational for us, because we don't see these too often. How a flag lot allows another lot in the back or not? What is you reference the code. So what does the code actually say about flag lots and what's permitted?
I'm going to have to look that up. Unless
I
it's
think-
written in my report.
I think what Janice's
Okay.
report
There we
mentions is
go.
that when you're looking at a flag lot, you disregard the staff in determining the dimensions
Yeah, it's in the definition in our code.
of the lot.
So the frontage would be the widest part of the back of the lot if it did have frontage? Or you say it doesn't have any frontage,
no
so that's a
frontage.
variance?
Right.
So you need a variance for
Well,
that?
the lot in front has frontage.
Yeah, right.
The lot in the rear, if it's
not.
subdivided, the lot in the rear would not have frontage.
So despite the fact that it's a flag lot, it still needs a variance. So flag lot, by calling it a flag lot, it doesn't give it any rights.
Right,
That-
No.
what it does is the definition tells you how to measure the yard dimensions for a flag lot, but
Okay.
it doesn't eliminate the variance
Got it.
for creating a lot with no frontage.
Got it. And so that's one variance, and what are the other two?
The second variance is for lot depth for the new lot in the front. Maybe you can point that out, Simon.
Right, so we decided to, basically the lot line was marked here, 25 feet from the existing property, so that the existing property conforms with their front yard. And we basically made this yard as deep as we could.
So that, the new house conforms? Or which one
No,
is,
This one does not conform in lot depth, is that correct?
That's correct. 'Cause
Right.
if
so
you do-
how does one measure lot depth for that
I believe it's from here to here. Is that
Yeah,
right, Tanis?
'cause
So it's the
ignore the
widest
s-
part to the widest part? You don't get any credit for all that stuff in the front?
You ignore the staff.
Right, so you ignore this part here.
And is there no variance for the gravel driveway in the rear lot?
Well, that's existing today, so I would hope it didn't require a variance to continue it.
Does the,
Is
does
that
Well,
the
does
accurate?
it?
I was like, is
Yeah,
that
we should
accurate?
deal with it now. Is that accurate?
I guess the question is, it's that the gravel driveway was a pre-existing non-conforming driveway. They're proposing to keep the building and the driveway as it is right now. The new construction's on the lot in the front, so that's why the new lot, we've applied the non-gravel requirement to the front lot. I wouldn't be a stickler to allowing the grandfathering of the existing gravel driveway in the back lot.
it's good for drainage.
Excuse me?
It's good for drainage.
If it's
You call it a
maintained,
continuance of
Yeah.
a non-conforming
right,
driveway.
for that portion of it.
So how does one measure the front yard setback for the new house? That conforms the front yard set?
That gets,
conform?
yeah, that gets measured from the front of the proposed dwelling to, without the staff.
So that conforms. What doesn't is that, oh, I get it. Okay, so these lots must be pretty deep along the street then, right? To make, because that's a pretty deep lot unto itself, yet the others are super deep on the street, I guess. And the requirement's like 150 feet or something?
Which one's that? This one? Yeah, those are the existing lots in the area.
Oh, I see, okay.
Can you clarify your comment on the sidewalk? You said that there's only a few houses with, are you saying with conforming sidewalks? Because I'm looking at the Google Maps and that non-conforming pavement, whatever it is, goes up and down the entire, your side of the block one way, and if you go the other way towards Marquette, it's one house, and then it looks like they have conforming sidewalks?
No, I think they have, I think there's, this one does not have a sidewalk. When I
Which
say-
one,
when I
which one
say-
is that? Which one?
This is the neighboring property, lot 72.
Right, and once you get past that one, it looks like
Then
it,
71 has a sidewalk, the corner one has a sidewalk, and the next, the next, what is that, the west corner of Marquette has a sidewalk as well. Then it stops. From there on to Grove Street, there is no sidewalk, not even the asphalt little thing. There's zero walkable surface.
There are 10 lots between that and Grove Street, is that
Right.
what you said? And only 3
Right,
have sidewalks.
right.
And from your lot down to Broad, I think you said that there were 27,
27, yes.
and only 3.5
Right,
of those have
yeah.
sidewalks.
but they are, with the exception of the one immediately adjacent to the property, all the way to Marquette, it looks like, and the property immediately adjacent to yours still has a pretty decent, especially compared to the existing condition of your lot. It's in a lot better shape, the sidewalk.
Yeah, I don't know if you call it a sidewalk, but
Well, regardless, I'm starting to understand Janice's point on this.
We're not resisting putting in
Okay.
new sidewalks if the board requires that.
Okay.
Just a question, are there sidewalks on the other side of the street?
Yeah.
yes,
They're all up and down sidewalks?
all the way, the entire Alexander.
Any other questions from the board?
So, I'm sorry, so two variances, the depth and the fact that the back lot doesn't have frontage, and that's it.
That's correct.
Got it.
And you said there was a waiver. What was the waiver for?
The waiver is from providing elevations of the proposed
Oh, I see.
house.
Do you plan on designing the new house?
My partner Eric and I will probably look at that.
Do you have any thoughts right now as to what it might look like and how it would fit into the neighborhood?
Well, we would like to have the quintessential, Montclair home with the front porch, maybe something Victorian. We haven't discussed the details yet, but it would be nice if it looked like it was here, 100 years ago.
Would it be visible from the street? I'm glad to hear that, but would it be visible?
It would be visible.
Yeah.
But it has a 40, hold on. This here, the front yard setback is 40 feet. So I guess, it's 200 feet back roughly.
200 feet back.
Right. Plus
And
new landscaping will kind of help.
And it's partially tucked back behind the other house.
Right.
That's correct as well. Yeah, you'll only see half of it actually.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the existing home way in the back, you're not going to see at all.
Right.
Well, for anybody that has school kids, there's an abbreviated day tomorrow for school. Yes.
Oh, for rain.
Yes, for a state of emergency. That's what was buzzing. It was like, whose phone's buzzing? Oh, it's mine. It's the school calling. Any other questions from the board?
What is the nature of the abbreviation? How long a period of time they would use?
It all depends on your school. You should know that. Are there any questions from the public for this witness? Step on up. Just please make sure the microphone's on.
There you go. Good evening. William Scott, 23 Cedar Avenue. Do you plan on selling the new family with a new house in the back?
We're keeping all our options open. We did approach this project as a potential development project. And if my financial plans change or future changes, I would love to live in the back, but
That could be a possibility.
Yes.
Okay.
yeah.
And with that
And
being...
for my partner, Peter, too, actually.
Okay. And then with that being the case, selling it, putting it on the open market and selling it, obviously you'd have to have a new survey to make sure that the house stands by itself since it's on a subdivided lot.
Yes, if that's what the town requires, we'll meet those requirements.
Okay. And then with that being the case, the easements would have to carry forward with the new property?
Oh, yeah, yeah,
Correct,
we
yeah.
have to record and, cross easements that would run in perpetuity,
Apologies.
Okay. And then,
providing for the shared driveway,
okay.
use of the driveway and maintenance of the driveway.
And then with the new house in the rear, meeting the lot requirements from a width and a depth standpoint, because I haven't heard the lot depth question answered yet. What would be the lot width and the lot depth for the new lot in the rear of the property?
Well, our next our witness can answer that. I can tell you they're conforming, though. There's no variances required for the existing house itself. The only variance for that property is because it doesn't front on the street, but it meets all the dimensional requirements and the setbacks.
Okay, but I was just looking at I believe it's the August 25th report from Ms. Talley, and requesting a variance for the lot depth for lot 73.2.
That is the front yard.
Well,
front lot.
well, let's just put in this, the back house, okay, all right?
No, that's where the front,
That's the front,
the new house
The new house.
requires the lot depth variance.
okay. Well, I'm just trying to get a clear
Sure.
understanding
Mm-hmm.
of the lot width and the lot depth requirements for both lots that are being requested with this subdivision.
Okay.
Okay.
The lot widths are 70 feet required,
Okay.
and lot depth is 155. We meet the
And
lot.
your engineer and planner are going to testify to
Yeah, I
that
mean,
next,
it's also
right?
in Janice's report also.
Well, I understand it's in his report, but I understand that the approval for the lot depth would come from the planning board.
Correct.
Okay. Based on the new ordinance of lot depths for the entire township.
That new ordinance.
Is your,
All right, that new ordinance affects lots that are created where you put in a new street. This is different because there's no new street associated with this subdivision.
I hear what you're saying, but then why are you requiring a variance for a lot depth of 155 feet opposed to 137 that is current?
Because the 155 feet, in this instance, lot depth is determined by the established lot depth in the neighborhood, because you're not creating a new street.
I understand.
And that's where we
that.
get the 155 feet.
Okay, but, so, still there's a requirement for a variance for that new lot depth? That's what you're asking for?
Yes.
Okay, so that,
That's what we're asking for, yes.
okay, we're on the same page. It's just- I just want to understand when that will be answered.
I assume their planner will answer that.
Well, the planner will propose it, but as a requirement, as a variance, it has to be approved. And that would be the responsibility of the planning board to make that approval.
yeah.
Okay. All right,
Yes.
thank you.
Any other questions from the public?
Okay,
See
Michael
none.
Lanzafama? Okay, you can don't go too far.
You just put your hand up for anybody. Sir, do you solemnly swear that, or affirm that the testimony you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes, I do,
Would you please state your full name and business affiliation for the record?
certainly. My name is Michael Lanzafama, that's Lanzafama. I'm a licensed professional engineer, land surveyor, and planner. I'm a principal with the firm of Casey and Keller Incorporated, 258 Main Street, Millburn, New Jersey. I've been licensed as a professional engineer and land surveyor since 1984, and as a professional planner since 1985. I've testified in numerous boards throughout the state, including this board in the past.
I assume your license is current?
They are current.
Perfect. We'll accept you.
Offering him as professional engineer and professional planner.
We'll accept them.
Thank you.
All right, Mike, you want to just, I know there's been a lot of talk about the property already, but you want to begin by giving your
Sure.
overview or description of the
I'm
site?
just going to go over to the screen.
It should be there. Maybe he's changing the batteries.
Oh.
Yeah,
Oh,
he
here it
was
is.
changing
Here it
the
comes.
batteries, so here you go.
Boy.
I thought your client stole it there, Mr. Tremblay.
Okay, thank you very much. So, looking at the property in question, what I'd like to do is refer to an aerial image that our office prepared using the software known as Near Maps. And what we've done is...
Do we need to mark this?
Yeah, let's
Yeah.
mark that. A10.
I have hard copies.
Oh, good.
Oh,
Thank
good.
you.
There's actually two pages. Mike can identify the second
Yeah.
one.
Yeah, this is the aerial exhibit. The second one is going to be the tax map exhibit.
I'll call the tax map exhibit will be A11.
I can proceed?
Oh,
These are not dated, and you accept that, right?
Correct. They were prepared today under my supervision.
And you mentioned, I'm sorry, you mentioned the software that you
It's called
use?
Near Maps, Nearmaps. It's a software program that provides you with high-resolution imagery that is current.
And that's listed on this figure, correct?
Yes. So what you see on the exhibit, which has been marked as A10, right, Janice? A10,
That's right.
is the aerial imagery. And you can see the property in question is outlined in green. This is tax lot 73 in block 3802. It's nearly a 1 acre parcel. It's 0.991 acres to be exact. And as you can see from the exhibit, it's an extremely unusual configuration. It's already a flag lot according to your ordinance. And it is probably one of the largest lots in the R170 zone. You can see all of the properties to the east, which are front on Riverview Drive, are all located in the same zone. Across Alexander Avenue, you have the R1, but that's an 80-foot width in some circumstances. But for the most part, you're looking at an extremely unusually configured and extra-large property, probably 3 times what the minimum lot area requirement is for the R1 zone. The property is located about 308 feet from Marquette Road to the east, and it is approximately 500 feet overall in depth. It has a frontage of 49.98 feet. It is the site of an existing 2-family house. It's a 3-story frame structure located at the rear of the property. The proposal is to subdivide the property where you see the yellow line existing and create 2 lots which would allow for the construction of the new single-family home on the front parcel, which has been identified as Lot 73.02. Lot 73.02 would be 21,486 square feet in size, and the rear parcel, which would house the existing structure, is tax lot 73.01, and that would be 21,693 square feet, all well in excess of the typical lot size for this zone. As I said, the frontage being only 49.98 feet, this becomes considered the stem of the flag, so we eliminate that and determine that the lot width is approximately 101 feet for both parcels, and the lot depth for the front parcel, or lot 73.02, is approximately 137 feet. It varies from 137 to 138. The back parcel is over 200 feet in depth, approximately 216 feet in depth. So you can see that the issues at hand, the lots are certainly large enough to support a single-family home. You're eliminating a 2-family house from a zone where it's not permitted. So you're bringing the property more in conformance with the land uses within the area. Access to the property at the back, as well as the property where the new construction would occur, would be via a 10-foot wide easement that would be paved and allow for safe and adequate access, especially for emergency vehicles, because that's the question that you have to answer for yourselves. By creating this parcel that doesn't have immediate frontage on a public street, can it still be accessed by emergency vehicles safely, provide for security from fire and any other issues that might be at hand. Keep in mind that this structure is probably over 50 years old and has been accessed in the very same way for all these years. So we really don't see any issue with regard to that. As a matter of fact, as Simon pointed out, the driveway will be improved, will be widened. Site visibility along Alexander Avenue will be improved by the elimination of the hedgerow that exists along the street. So in my opinion, the variance for the lot not having frontage can be granted as either a C1 or a C2 in my mind. I believe that this infill type development that you see here is what the state's master plan talks about when they talk about developing in areas where infrastructure already exists. As you know, The utilities are readily available, sanitary, sewer, water supply, gas, electric are all readily available for these locations. And this infill type of development allows for the opportunity to bring new housing into the community. It eliminates the non-conforming two-family, so you're really not increasing the density or the intensity of use of the property. You're just simply reconfiguring it into something that's more in keeping with the character of the other lots in the neighborhood. And to demonstrate that, I prepared a second exhibit, which is A11, which is the municipal tax map. And what we did here is we highlighted the property in question in blue. And then what we also did was we took a look at the lots in the immediate area and showed you what their typical lot depths are. Those are the numbers in red in the boxes in the center of each of the properties in questions. And as you could see, the properties along Marquette are well under the 155 feet. And as you move up, let me pull this down. And as you look at the homes and the lots that exist to the east of our property, fronting on Alexander Avenue and Riverview Drive, you can see that those are very shallow in depth and are definitely consistent with the size of the building section of lot 73.01 that we're proposing as part of the application. So in my mind, I believe this is a C2 variance where the being able to provide this home, this new building site on a lot that has a configuration that's not all that dissimilar from the other homes in the neighborhood. You're maintaining the character of the neighborhood. You're eliminating an extremely large lot that could potentially have a home that's very large built upon it and might be out of character with the rest of the neighborhood. So I see this as a real opportunity to provide for quality housing in an area without any substantial detriment to the public good or the intent and purpose of your zone plan. As a matter of fact, there are sections of your master plan that kind of allude to this type of development and how it might be beneficial. Under the Montclair's Unified Land Use and Circulation element amended in March 2023, under the introduction and overview, under the big ideas contains, there are a plan to implement zoning revisions and new land use controls in select areas using form-based code or similar standards that allows increased density and or an improved built environment, and to conserve the neighborhood form and character. I think that's what this does. I think this helps conform the property more closely to the character of the neighborhood by creating all single-family homes and eliminating the two-family structure. And under the township-wide strategies, the neighborhood character, it identifies new construction of the residential neighborhoods is at time out of character because of the oversize of the homes on the larger lots. So I think this advances several elements of the master plan, and I don't see any negative impacts associated with the development of the property. Any home that's constructed on the property, the construction of the driveway has to have a thorough review by your engineering department on a lot grading plan. It also would have to go to the Hudson-Essex-Passaic Soil Conservation District for certification and approval. So stormwater management, site grading, tree conservation, new plantings would all be dealt with at that time once a home that was finally decided upon was going to be constructed on the new lot. So in my mind, I think this is certainly a supportable application. I believe the board can feel some comfort in knowing that you have enough controls in place to make sure that the new house being constructed is going to be safe. It's going to be, you're going to manage stormwater runoff appropriately, and the home in the back is still going to have safe and adequate access to the public thoroughfare. And pretty much that's my testimony. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Yeah, so the yards, for all the front yards and side yards and, well, the two houses, no variances for the yards, right?
That is correct.
Okay, so I don't think you need a variance for depth, because the flag lot says here, minimum yard requirements are determined without including the staff portion of the lot. So I consider that to be front yards, side yards, and backyards. I don't consider that to be depth. So you may not need, because it seems, with such a depth, it seems kind of absurd in a way that you would need some sort of variance because this lot isn't deep enough.
Because, yeah, you have quite a distance through here.
Yeah.
You have over
So,
280
again,
feet.
if you look at the flag lot, it just specifically says minimum yard requirements. So I don't think that depth is a yard requirement. It's just depth on its own. So I'm not sure if that.
It never hurts to ask.
It never
for
hurts, I know,
variance.
but
I certainly would say that that's a mitigating factor
Yes.
in the
Yeah.
variance request.
because it's really deep.
Yeah.
Can you go back to the previous slide that you had?
Sure.
So, looking at your blue land,
Mhm.
the two big white squares above it, are those part of the properties of Marquette? Or
This
that one and the one
parcel
next to
here,
it?
I believe, is part of lot 67.
It is.
And I believe this parcel is part of the preserve. I'm not sure.
Okay. All right. And my second question is, the stem of the flag lot, is that considered part of the area of the new house for
It
for
was-
tax purposes? Will they be taxed
It
on
was
that?
considered in the calculation of the lot area.
No, it's just,
Oh.
it's kind of for my education, the stem part of the lot, it seems to be its purpose is to have the driveway go through it. Is that land part of the tax assessment piece for the new building?
Yes,
Or is
it
it
would be.
shared among the, oh?
No, this would be assessed as
With
part
that,
of
okay.
of this new lot
Doesn't seem quite
7302.
fair. Thank you.
Can you go back to the previous slide for 1 second again?
Sure.
This is more of a question for Mr. Trembulac. So, and this is with all credit to my colleague, Mr. Ortiz. So Riverview Drive comes up almost to your blue property. There's that little rectangle of land there.
Lot
Do you know,
90.
what is that?
This
Exactly,
lot-
right where you got the
90
hand there.
Lot 90 is this little strip, and usually those are done to prevent people from extending the road beyond. And usually you leave a little strip. I don't know who actually owns that. Is
Well, you
that
said
in
the
your-
town owns it.
owns
Yeah,
it?
my
town does,
understanding, we think the town owns it.
I think so, too.
I bring it up not only to plant the seed with Mr. Trembulac, that since he's talking to the town anyway.
Well, you've intrigued me.
Well, yeah, because you're talking to the town anyway about the encroachment. You might solve a multitude of problems if you're able to acquire that little strip of land, because all of a sudden you might be able to have the new house front
Well,
onto Riverview
you'd
Drive.
have- You'd have to get right of access across 91 as well.
And
Right,
there's
but
a
if that's
cul-de-sac
public-
there?
if it's- yeah, if
that's
it's-
a town.
There's a
I don't know.
cul-de-sac
Janice-
currently.
Janice, that's not in Green Acres, is it?
I don't know if that was included in our green acre. I didn't look into that.
Okay,
But I-
because it's
I
next
do
to the
know-
preserve.
Yeah, so I didn't look into whether or not that's in our Green Acres inventory,
Yeah.
but that whole parcel has, I'm sure has various purposes for the township in terms of accessibility to,
I'm a little less sure than you are that there's a purpose, but, you know.
Which, it's lot 91 or lot 90?
91 and 90.
Oh.
They're both owned by the township.
Yeah, I was saying, this says it's owned by the township. It's
Yeah.
half a
And-
foot wide.
And I think that there's a drainage easement at the back of it, so that's how we get access
The
to
property
it.
owner has an answer anyway, so, yeah, sorry.
I spoke to Mr. Sharoon in the zoning department, and he said that the lot 91 was a historic listed property and could not ever be built on. Yeah.
Are you sure?
Green Acres?
That's,
It had,
That's
Janice, it had the blue,
That's
Surprised me
He said-
too, and
what
I'm on
did
the
he- what did he
commission.
it
say?
had, when he looked it up on some town map, it has like a blue dot on it.
Which means it's public land.
No, the blue
Lot
dot is
91.
usually, that's our
Historic.
historic inventory.
Right, that's what I meant, sorry.
Oh, that's right, now I remember. Yes. That lot is in our historic inventory, the vacant lot.
Why?
A vacant- a vacant lot?
There is a story behind it.
There must have been a historic event.
There's, I guess, when it was deeded to the township, there's and it's, so it was included on the vacant inventory, not the historic inventory. Because of the, it's, and I
That was
believe
not
when
going to be on my bingo card. That was
and
not in
when
my
I-
top 100 possible answers to that
And when I
question.
read it, you just triggered the memory. It was really to provide an entrance to the preserve. That's what was indicated.
Yeah, because. Okay.
I retain my ability to be surprised. Obviously, George Washington relieved himself by a tree there, and so we're.
Hey, Mr. Lanzafama, so was it your testimony that you think this driveway is sufficient to have emergency vehicles get in and out, access both properties,
That's my
both
testimony. I
buildings?
believe it is adequate and sufficient to get emergency vehicles in and out. It is 10-foot wide, paved. And you figure the house has existed with the existing driveway, which is more narrow, for decades. And the police and fire have never had it.
Is there a fire
Had a
hydrant?
reason to go
They had
there,
a
but.
reason.
Yeah. Is there a fire hydrant nearby that would
Yes.
extend to the back?
Yeah,
Huh?
there's a, if you go back to the subdivision plat, I believe there's a hydrant, right? I can't see it here, but I believe it's right here. If I'm not mistaken.
Besides, in the event of a fire emergency, they're going on the lawn.
Yeah.
Assuming they can get through the trees. and
Trees,
everything.
yeah.
That's,
Look, you take a look, they can.
any other questions from the board? Questions from the public for this witness?
Okay, William Scott, 23 Cedar Avenue. And I'm posing this question to you, sir. Are you aware of different lot width and requirements for new one-family houses being built in Montclair? In this case, a subdivision being built in Montclair, or if there's a requirement for a new street being built in Montclair with multiple houses. Are there different lot width requirements for those three different categories?
Not
According to the-
lot width, lot depth requirements.
Okay.
There's different, in your R1 zone, you have different lot width requirements based upon the characteristics of the area. You have R170, R180, et cetera, et cetera.
Okay. So if you look at the lot format within the ordinance, there's one lot width and depth requirement across the board.
No.
Then explain why that is not the case.
Because of the varying nature of the lots that exist. So under your ordinance, you have R70 for 70-foot wide lots in certain areas of the community, because that's pretty much the character of the area. In other areas, there's R180, where the lot widths are a little bit wider, so any new lot has to meet that width requirement. The lot depth requirement kicks in, as Ms. Talley pointed out. There's been amendment to the ordinance recently that when you build a new lot, when you introduce a major subdivision where you're going to have a new road and you want to create lots off of that new road, they have to meet that new standard. This lot is basically being subdivided out of an existing parcel on an existing road, so it doesn't have to meet that new standard.
Okay. if it doesn't have to, well, I hear what you're saying. And if it doesn't have to meet that standard, then there wouldn't have been a request for a lot depth requirement for this particular application.
I don't follow that question. Say that again?
This is an application for a subdivision. And according to the Ms. Townley's report, there is a variance being required for lot depth for the back lot.
No, not the back lot, the front lot.
The front lot. Well, in either case, there is a lot depth requirement at this point.
Correct.
Okay. So, in that lot depth requirement is based on the new lot depth requirement ordinance that has been put in place for the entire township of Montclair.
I think you turned the microphone off.
No, it's based on the existing requirement that you have to make the lot steeper if you're building a new road. We're not building a new road here.
Well, you're building a new house on a
Correct.
new lot.
Correct.
Okay? And as I posed a question to the property owner, at some point in time, he has an option of selling that property.
Sure.
So that property would stand on its own.
And it does.
Okay? Well, I'm still not getting my question answered, because why is there a lot depth requirement according to your report? A variance for a lot depth requirement?
Right. The requirement is 155 feet.
Yes.
If you take away the stem, which there's some question, a gray area as to whether or not that's even required for lot depth. If you take away the stem, the rectangular area that's left is only approximately 138 feet deep, where 155 is the norm for that zone.
Okay, and I'm going to wrap this up. At the end of the day, would you go back and put up the slide with the original lot?
The existing lot.
Yes. Well, the existing lot that also shows the new house in the rear.
Oh, that's
That
the
one
site.
right, the one at the bottom, the one at the bottom.
That's this one.
Okay, now, as I mentioned earlier, if the owner wants to sell that house in the back,
Correct.
what is the lot width and depth of that property?
It's 101 feet wide by 216 feet deep, fully conforming with the zoning.
And
Okay?
Mr. Scott, this has nothing to do with whether he sells it or not.
Well,
Once this
he-
is subdivided, it's going to be its own property that,
Correct.
You're following me, I appreciate that, okay? Then the front house, what is the lot width and depth requirement?
The lot width requirement is 70 feet, and the lot depth requirement is 155. What we're
Okay.
proposing is a lot width measured at, beyond the stem, let's ignore the stem for the time being, is 101 feet by approximately 138 feet. So we're a little bit shy of the 155.
Okay.
So therefore, we need a variance. But if you factored in the entire length from the roadway to the rear property line we're proposing, it would be fully compliant.
Okay? So I'll help you out there. If there hadn't been a new lot depth requirement across the board in the Township of Montclair, which went in effect in 2023, you would have met the requirement to build that lot without this required variance.
that's been asked
No.
and answered, sir. It has nothing to do with the new ordinance. The new
Has
ordinance
nothing to
only
do with
deals
the
with
new
building a new street.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Any other questions from the public? I see none.
I'll be very brief. You've heard all the planning justifications.
Just, sorry to interrupt. Is there a period for comment?
There should be.
Let's do that.
Are there any comments from the public about this application? Mr. Scott?
As a property owner in the Township of Montclair, I support your application. I think it's an opportunity to build a new one-family house and modify a two-family house to a one-family house in the appropriate zone. And I think this might lead to other opportunities in the future that individuals that may have flag lots could pursue something like this. I think that this was a very important application. Thank you.
Good, thank you.
Any other comments?
I just want to pick up on the issue as to whether we require a lot depth variance, not to beat this to death, but I think Mr. Inawali raised a good point, because the definition of flag lots actually disregard the stem for purposes of turning yard requirements. But the definition of lot depth in the zoning ordinance is very simple. It's the distance from the center point of a street line to the center of the opposite line to the rear. So I think the lot depth here is 200 and some odd feet. Even if it's not, I think, if the board disagrees, I think we've made a compelling case for granting the variance, particularly given the lot depths of the lots in the neighborhood, many of which are significantly smaller. And you combine that with the overall plan here, which is to remove a non-conforming two-family residence and provide two conforming single-family residences in an R1 zone. No increase in density here. Both of these lot sizes are about half an acre, so we're certainly not squeezing anything into a property that can't accommodate this. And it's a better plan than what's there today with non-conforming two-family and no increased density, no impact on traffic, parking, or any other detriment whatsoever to the neighborhood. Regarding the other variances, Mr. Lanzafama pointed out, the reason for the requirement that lots front on a public street is to make sure that there's the ability to access the lots for fire or other emergency purposes. And here that's clearly provided by this road, which has served to provide access to that house in the rear for probably half a century and will continue to do so here in an improved condition where it's widened to a full 10 feet in width and fully paved up until you get to the rear property line. So I think this is a good application, and I think we've made a strong case in support of the two variances if we in fact need to. I'll leave that up to the board, and I would ask that the board approve the application subject to the conditions that we've discussed.
Janice, just before we close, this is a question for you, but it may end up being a question for Mr. Trembulak. So, as applied to this property, I find myself agreeing with Tony's view that the staff is wide enough that the spirit of the requirement is there. What I'm kind of wondering is, if we set a precedent by saying that for this application, we're saying that the staff counts, are there other lots you can think of where the staff would be significantly narrower than this, where the precedent we set today, if we say that doesn't need a variance, would be less palatable?
Well, it's not the width of this. It's not the width of the staff. The point I was making that the flag lot clause indicates that the yard requirements still need to be met. And depth isn't a yard requirement. Yards are side yards, front yards, back yards. And in both of these lots, the applicant indicates that all the yard requirements comply. There's no variance required. The definition of flag lot doesn't say anything about depth.
I know, but I'm just, it matters a little bit, because we're looking at it here and it looks plenty big, but I can see I can envision other ones where we would, I mean, look, I'm happy enough giving the variance either way. I'm just kind of curious as to whether, how you feel about this as the planner.
I feel like we interpreted it correctly based on the guidance that was given in our ordinance. I think every plan, every application before you, you have to look at the unique conditions on that property. And in this case, the staff is very long. So I think it mitigates the impact of the lot depth variance. That may not always be the case,
And Tony's correct that the yard requirements are all satisfied as well?
Absolutely.
So those are, I mean, you have two mitigating factors right there, in my opinion, as well. I thought those were
Okay.
a
Yeah,
very
so-
fine
so-
point.
But we seem inclined to do a variance, but because
Yeah.
it's, okay, yeah.
But if we do a variance, that could, that's a higher bar for other flag lots. Because now we're saying that, what we're saying by doing this is that the yard requirements include depth. When I read that as nothing about depth. There's front yards, side yards, backyards, so, and I think that you have to,
I have a problem. I think basically that my reason of what I'm hearing is that it's the combination of factors, and that we're not changing now to say that the flag lot is making a whole new precedent for flag lots. We're looking at a combination of factors. And I don't think that we can single out the one and say that this is the reason now that all flag lots or whatever has to be.
I'm just going to the language that's in the zoning ordinance, and that's what I have to go on.
And you know what, if you want to appeal the zoning officer's decision, that goes to the Board of Adjustment. So honestly, this is how the zoning officer has interpreted, you know, these requirements in the past, and it's how
Oh,
we're interpreting
okay.
it here.
That makes it easier.
Okay, all right, all right, so we're relying on that, all right, that's fine.
That's why I ask these questions, right?
And I don't see that it really makes that we're setting a new precedent for all flag lots.
Right.
Yeah, and I'd like to move away from the notion of precedent.
Well, that's
This
what I'm trying
application
to
won't
say.
set any
Yeah.
precedent
I
in
don't
town.
think we're trying to say
now it
that we
won't.
now have to reconsider flag lots in general, because this one, with a combination of factors, is acceptable.
Right.
So if someone comes in with this exact property, just coincidentally, this exact property is in some other part of town, and they say, I don't need a depth variance, we're going to say, no, you need one, because,
Well, I think Janice's answer is very important, which is that the zoning officer looked at the factors here, made a ruling. We are without power to overrule that determination. So it is, the only thing we can do here is grant the variance,
Yeah.
or not.
Right.
And
so-
of course, you can make, if you disagree with the language in the zoning ordinance, you could suggest alternative language to clarify it.
For a
So-
different application, not this one.
Right,
And you
right.
don't get to complain about us using the word precedent after you use rule against perpetuities earlier in the meeting, so.
That was my fault. Apologies again.
That is, yeah. And we've had that come before us where I think we needed an interpretation of the zoning officer, or it was unclear, and so we had an application pause here, go to the Board of Adjustment for a ruling, and then come back to us. But I found this discussion to be very illuminating, because I think we learned some things, but I also think hearing that we only have a binary decision to make, that makes it easier. So for you,
That's true.
so we've closed the public hearing, or is you need to do, we need
We've
to take
closed,
that?
we've closed the public hearing with board deliberation.
I will go crazy and just say I move that we approve this request for minor subdivision, grant the two variances, but in keeping with Ms. Talley's suggestion, I think we should require that they build a conforming sidewalk. And that is
In
my
addition to
motion.
the other conditions that were discussed.
Well, Arthur, I don't remember what I don't remember hearing any other conditions
I do.
besides, because they were going, they're gonna have to talk to the town about the encroachment. But,
Right.
Arthur, you tell me what else we need to put in there, but, well, the trees are always there. The trees are, they've got to replant the.
What I have are, the applicant will seek the consent of the town to keep the two trees, I think the two trees is what's being discussed, or eliminate the encroachment by removing the trees. I don't know how that's going to work itself out.
Either or, we either maintain the encroachment with the town's consent, or we eliminate the encroachment, which would mean removing the trees by necessity.
Right, so where will you go for that request? I mean, how will you seek that consent of the town?
I'd go to the town attorney. Yeah, I've had a similar encroachment issue involving a building of Washington Plaza, where we were able to negotiate basically an easement allowing the encroachment to remain. So, kind of have a template for that, so.
Okay, so I can include that, and will include that as a condition. any tree, the applicant indicated that 13 trees are going to be removed and 13 will be replanted, and those trees will be native to New Jersey.
Mr. Brodock says.
A tip of the hat to the vice chair. The applicant will install a sidewalk, a compliant sidewalk.
Carving Janice's initials.
And that's all I have, in
That's- yeah,
addition
that-
to our usual and normal conditions.
So
I have a
I so move.
I have a question. As far as the requirement to convert the house back to a one-family, what would be the trigger point of that? Would that be prior to the deeds being filed, prior to a building, a CO of the new house? There's got to be a trigger point where we're requiring that take place.
That's a
I
good
would
point.
ask that the trigger point to be prior to issuing a CO for the new house. So at
Yeah.
that point, it's, you know, we have to have no more than 2 dwelling units
I
on
think
the
that should
property,
be
but we would prefer to have the income from the other dwelling until the new house is complete, so
Okay, thank you.
C of O trigger.
With that,
And I'll second with that condition added.
Anybody want to discuss? Nope. Ms. Talley?
All in favor, do you want me to call the roll, or just, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Okay.
Thank you very much.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Okay, I'm going to suggest that we deal with the committee report first before we go into executive session. Well, it says committee report from the master plan subcommittee, which,
Which you
We
mean
don't
the
really
master
have-
housing.
We don't have.
yeah.
We don't
I
have one.
believe I sent the report from the Housing Commission to
Yes.
the Master Plan Subcommittee. The Master Plan Subcommittee wasn't able to meet prior to this meeting, but I really wanted to share with you that the Housing Commission did spend a lot of time.
I have a lot of questions about it, and I
A
feel
lot
like
of-
it's not that supported by data, which I'd like to see.
Well, okay, let
And
me
also,
explain.
I'm sorry.
The Housing Commission is hiring, or not, has a group, basically a class from Rutgers that's going to be doing data analysis to support a new housing element and fair share plan for Montclair. So in advance of that, they wanted to share with you their review and recommendations for a new housing element and fair share plan. As you may or may not know, the state of New Jersey will be publishing new affordable housing requirements that will become effective in July of 2025. So our intent is to use this year to gather information and to establish a basis for a new housing element and fair share plan that will meet the new requirements. There's actually new legislation, proposed legislation out there that has a whole new host of requirements for municipalities, including how it's calculated, including timeframes for submitting documents. That's wending its way through the lame duck session, as my understanding. So I've been monitoring that. So there's a lot of housing issues I think that we will need to be apprised of this year, and between the work of the planning board and the work of the housing commission, we'll have a lot of input in terms of discussing these issues.
Who owns the final product? Is it the planning board or
The planning board adopts the housing element. The
Right.
fair share plan is adopted by the council. Because the
And-
fair share plan has to do with ordinances and expenditures of money.
Does the planning board advise the council?
Of course, the planning board
Yeah,
advises,
on the
and so
whole
does the housing
issue.
commission.
Separately, the housing commission, or are we supposed to incorporate what they've given, like this report, into what we're presenting?
That's your prerogative.
Ah, okay.
This has to do with the master plan reexamination.
I know,
Right.
yeah,
So-
and I think,
So that falls into our purview.
well, then we were doing the reexamination, I think I had something to do with, I forget now, it's been a while, what they called the flexible, affordable, urban, suburban lifestyle. That had to do with affordable housing, too. So I'm not sure who's doing what, is my question.
Well, okay, let me tell you, the request was to do a master plan reexamination report. We asked the Housing Commission, the Environmental Commission, and the Historic Preservation Commission for their input on recommendations pertaining to the housing element and fair share plan, the historic preservation element of the master plan, and the conservation element of the master plan. This was the response provided by the Housing Commission on on the board's request for their comments to be included in the master plan reexamination report. And of course, their recommendation is that we would need a whole new housing plan, and I agree with them. We're still waiting to hear back from the Historic Preservation Commission and the Environmental Commission on their recommendations for those two elements of the master plan. The master plan subcommittee separately met about 6 weeks ago, 4 to 6 weeks ago, to talk about the land use element and identified several areas where we need better wordsmithing on the master plan. The master plan subcommittee also recommended that, you know what, parking is always an issue, and that we should focus on getting, updated parking data and utilization of our parking lots to support any recommended changes to the master, to the land use element and circulation plan. So that's where we are right now. We haven't actually taken any more steps on that, but there's two things.
And we did also discuss taking a look at areas in need of redevelopment and whether we've satisfied some of the, or all of the goals of the previous iteration of the master plan.
I mean, I guess, I looked at this report, and, I have a lot of questions about it. Should I continue to focus on those questions or try to get answers out of the Housing Commission, or should I sit on this until we get more information that you said, is it Rutgers students, I'm sorry, that are working on data production?
Why don't you tell me what questions you have, and I can direct them to the Housing Commission.
Okay, so why don't I write them down? That might
Okay.
be better.
I think that'd be good, and I think it'd
Yeah.
be good to handle it in the
Yeah.
subcommittee.
Yeah, so-
Get answers, and then we can come together, talk about it, and then raise it up with the larger
Right,
board.
right, okay.
Okay.
Do you want to pay bills before going to executive session too?
I don't
Yeah.
see any bills.
There were bills.
The electronic version is a little off from
I
the
apologize.
the hard copy.
It's only Arthur's bills, so,
If other folks look at them, by all means.
Especially that
usually you do.
You do
I
that.
know, if I don't have
Then we
them, it's
gotta
hard to
wait.
do it.
I move we pay the bills.
There's no engineering bills in this one, it's just Arthur's bills.
Okay.
And I apologize for not including it.
For this
in the email.
application, it was a bill for $36.
All right, Happy New Year, Art. I'll second that motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Okay.
Okay, so we've got some pending litigation and board personnel to discuss in executive session. So with that, I would move to go into executive session.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, we're back from executive session.
However, my administrative assistant retired, so right now I'm doing. So Grace retired at the end of last year. So we're in the process of hiring a new administrative assistant, but until that time comes, I'm doing all of that work. So it's we're not fully staffed yet. We will be hopefully within the next 6 weeks to 2 months. All right?
I could say the Environmental Commission was behind on their review of the master plan because we hopefully finished, we'll know on Wednesday, climate action plan for the township.
Good.
Yeah, it looks really nice. We had a graphic designer come in and make it look really nice. Like, I'm pretty happy with it. But we're reviewing the final version Wednesday night, and then if it passes, we'll send it on to the council.
Okay, good.
And then we can get back to
Yep.
the master plan.
Sounds good.
Yep.
All right.
Anything else? I would move to adjourn.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you, everyone.